Ever wished you could understand, like, the why behind what people do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, get ready because today we are taking a deep dive into qualitative research.
All right.
Specifically, we're focusing on ethnography and grounded theory.
Okay.
There's really cool university-level insights,
Yeah.
but, without the boring lectures.
Yeah.
You've given us a huge stack of academic articles, which is awesome.
It's going to be good.
So get ready because we're going to try to unlock the secrets of, like,
Mm.
human behavior.
I love it. It's fascinating how much we can learn when we go beyond just the numbers and really try to dig into that, like you said, the why behind the what.
Absolutely. And so to get started, let's unpack this a bit. What exactly is qualitative research? I was
Huh.
thinking about this earlier, and an analogy kind of came to mind.
Okay.
Imagine that you're baking a cake.
Okay.
Quantitative research would be like carefully measuring each ingredient, making sure you have, the exact amount.
Yeah.
Qualitative research is more like tasting the cake after it's baked
Mhm.
and describing, like, its complex flavors.
I like that. That's a really good way to put it.
Nice.
Because you see, qualitative research isn't about reducing things to simple numbers. It's about systematically exploring the gaps in knowledge, understanding why people do the things that they do, what they value, and how they see the world around them.
So it's kind of like diving into this messy, nuanced reality of, like, human experience.
Absolutely.
One of your sources, unit-1.pdf, it uses this example of a study on how college students understood spiritual development.
Okay.
And what really struck me was that the researchers, they weren't trying to find, like, the one right answer. They were interested in, like, the range of perspectives, the different ways students grappled with this really complex topic.
That's a perfect example of, how qualitative research really works because it embraces that diversity of thought. It helps us understand the things that we can't easily measure.
Exactly.
It's like, how do you put a number on, like, the feeling of comfort a patient feels when a nurse truly listens to them?
You can't, yeah.
And unit-101.pdf highlights that very point.
Exactly. You can't capture that human connection in a simple survey or with, simple numbers.
Nope.
This makes me think about the differences between qualitative and quantitative research. Are they like competing approaches or?
Not at all. Think of them more as teammates working toward, a common goal.
Okay, yeah.
Quantitative research is very structured. It's focused on objective measurements and numbers. Qualitative research is about exploration. It's about asking those open-ended questions. It's about gathering that rich data through observations and, in-depth interviews.
So it's not about choosing one or the other. It's about recognizing that they both have their strengths.
Yeah.
And we can use them together to get a more complete picture of whatever we're studying.
Exactly.
And I love how unit1.pdf, it has this super handy comparison table that really lays it all out.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Super helpful.
Super helpful, yeah. And speaking of different approaches, qualitative research has its own toolkit of methods, and each of these tools is designed to kind of unlock a different aspect of human experience. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So let's give our listener a quick rundown of those. We've got case studies, which provide like these deep dives into specific people or situations. Ethnography immerses researchers in a particular culture.
Right.
We've got the historical method, which helps us understand past events and their impact on, well, anything, really.
Yeah.
Phenomenology, which focuses on lived experiences, like that feeling of comfort from a caring nurse that we talked about. But for today's deep dive, we are focusing on two really powerful methods, ethnography and grounded theory.
I like it. Two really fascinating approaches that get to the heart of human behavior and social dynamics.
Yes.
And, grounded theory in particular, it's unique because it aims to build theories from the ground up based on what researchers observe and learn during their investigations.
So cool. So it's not about starting with an idea and trying to prove it.
Right.
It's more about letting the data guide you and allowing those patterns and insights to kind of emerge organically.
Yeah, it's like detective work, but for social scientists. Ooh, I like that. Okay. And speaking of deep immersion, let's jump into the world of ethnography.
Okay.
Imagine living with a group of people for months.
Wow.
You're participating in their daily life, observing everything they do, their rituals, their interactions, all to truly grasp their culture.
That's intense.
It is. It's super intense. And I remember reading in unit1.pdf how ethnographers don't just observe from a distance. They actually become part of the community they're studying.
That's wild.
They even use this technique called chaining
Mhm.
to connect with participants. And I have to admit, I'm a little curious about that.
Yeah.
What exactly is chaining?
Think of it as like a human referral network for research.
Okay.
So ethnographers will start by identifying a few like key individuals in the community, and then they'll ask those individuals to introduce them to other people who might provide valuable insights.
Oh, okay.
So it creates this kind of chain reaction, right? Expanding their network of participants and giving them a more like holistic view of the culture they're studying. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. So they're basically tapping into the community's own knowledge and connections to get a deeper understanding.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And unit-1.pdf mentions that ethnographers are really interested in uncovering the meaning behind symbols, cultural patterns, and even this thing called tacit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge. What's that?
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. It's the unspoken stuff, those like unwritten rules that guide how we behave in different cultures. Like, how close do you stand to someone when you're talking to them?
Right.
It varies so much across cultures, and ethnographers, they're attuned to those subtle cues.
Yeah, it's amazing how those seemingly insignificant things can reveal so much about a culture's values and beliefs. It's like you're decoding like this hidden language of social interaction.
Yeah, for sure.
Your source also uses this really intriguing phrase, situational reduction. What does that mean, like, in the context of ethnography?
So it's this idea that even seemingly insignificant interactions that we have contribute to these larger patterns and social structures within a culture.
Okay.
It's about understanding how individual actions shape the norms, the hierarchies, the power dynamics of a group.
That's mind-blowing. So ethnographers aren't just watching. They're putting together this giant puzzle to understand how all those little interactions create the big picture of the culture.
Exactly. Ethnography is really powerful.
It is.
Yeah, it reveals that intricate tapestry of human culture in like all its detail. It's like holding up a magnifying glass to society and seeing all those intricate connections you might have otherwise missed.
Well, this is making me rethink all my interactions in a whole new way. Okay, so we've kind of explored this world of ethnography. Let's switch gears and delve into grounded theory, which, as we mentioned, is all about building theories from scratch.
Absolutely. And grounded theory goes beyond just describing, like phenomena. It seeks to explain why things happen, developing theories that are rooted in real-world observations and experiences.
One of the big takeaways that I got from unit-2.pdf is that grounded theory researchers use these things called memos to capture their thoughts and observations throughout the entire research process.
Right.
And they're constantly comparing and refining their understanding as they get more data.
Yeah, think of those memos as like thinking out loud, but on paper.
Okay.
It lets researchers jot down ideas as they come up, connections, questions.
So it's not about sticking to like a rigid plan.
Right.
It's about being open to new ideas
Yeah,
and letting the theory evolve over time.
exactly. Grounded theory is all about flexibility. And speaking of data, grounded theory researchers aren't limited to just like formal interviews. They use a much wider range of information.
Unit2.pdf even suggests interviewing yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, the idea is to tap into all available sources of information. This could include those informal conversations. It could include lectures, news articles, even, personal experiences and your existing knowledge.
So it's like being a detective, gathering clues from everywhere you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got all this information. How do we organize it? How do we go from all that data to a cohesive theory?
So unit2.pdf outlines a process that moves like from raw data to this polished theory. It's like putting together a puzzle where the picture, only emerges when you connect all those pieces.
Right.
So the first step is gathering data through those various methods, including those memos that we talked about.
So it starts with those observations and thoughts and like reflections.
Exactly. And then you get to coding, which is systematically analyzing and categorizing all of that data, looking for patterns, developing like key concepts.
So it's like making sense of this initial information overload.
Exactly.
It's like organizing those puzzle pieces into like meaningful groups.
Exactly. And then as researchers are coding the data, they're constantly comparing and refining their understanding.
Okay.
Looking for connections and contradictions. And it's a very iterative process.
So what happens next?
Finally, once they've thoroughly coded and analyzed all the data, they start to like weave their findings into a coherent and compelling theory.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Unit2.pdf mentions this term, theoretical sensitivity. What does that even mean?
Yeah, theoretical sensitivity is a researcher's ability to kind of see the big picture, to be able to interpret and connect data in meaningful ways, spotting subtle patterns and connections that other people might just miss.
So it's like a sixth sense for finding those hidden insights.
Exactly. It's the art of making meaning from the messiness of, real-world data.
I imagine that kind of sensitivity develops over time with practice and,
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about coding a bit more because that seems like a really crucial step in grounded theory.
Yeah.
Unit-2.pdf, it mentions three types: selective, open, and axial coding.
Right.
Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, each type plays a distinct role in shaping the emerging theory. Imagine that you're listening to a band.
Okay, I can picture that.
So selective coding is like focusing on the lead singer and noticing how the other band members are contributing to the overall sound.
Okay.
You're identifying a central concept and exploring how other concepts relate to it.
So you're choosing the main theme that drives the theory.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, what about open coding?
Open coding is like breaking down the music into its individual elements.
Right.
It's the drums, the bass, the guitar, the vocals. You're identifying and labeling each of those distinct elements, analyzing their characteristics and their meanings.
So you're taking that initial raw data and organizing it into meaningful categories.
Exactly. It's the first step to making sense of everything.
Okay, and lastly, we have axial coding.
So axial coding is where you start connecting those individual elements. You're understanding how they relate to each other. And to that core concept you identified with the selective coding. It's like figuring out how the drums drive the rhythm, how the bass provides the foundation, and how the guitar and vocals weave together the melody.
So you're seeing how all those pieces fit together to create the whole.
Exactly. And what's really cool about axial coding is it focuses on the causes and contexts, not just the consequences.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's about understanding the why behind the what and digging deeper into those factors that shape and influence whatever you're studying.
So you're not just describing what happens, you're trying to figure out like all those influences and relationships that make it happen.
Exactly. And that's the power of grounded theory.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've explored the what and the how of grounded theory.
Yeah,
But I think our listener might be wondering, so what? Why should I care about this?
that's a great question. And the answer is that grounded theory has real-world applications.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, unit2.pdf gives us some examples of how it can be used to evaluate programs, understand consumer behavior, even analyze advertising strategies.
So it's not just some abstract academic thing. It's a tool that can be used to solve real problems.
Exactly, whether you're trying to make a program better or you're trying to understand who your customers are or develop effective marketing strategies,
Right.
grounded theory can provide that framework for navigating those complex situations.
It's super valuable. Now, before we finish up this section on grounded theory, it's important to mention that even this very powerful approach has its limitations.
Right.
No research method is perfect.
Exactly. Discourse analysis. Sounds kind of like we're going to be dissecting Shakespeare or something.
Maybe not Shakespeare, but we are going to be analyzing language.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not looking at like grammar rules here.
Right.
It's more about how language can shape our understanding of the world,
Mm.
how it influences like power dynamics and even constructs our identities.
It's true. It's about going beyond the surface, like what's being said and uncovering those deeper layers of meaning. One of your sources, unit3.pdf, suggests thinking of discourse as like the different ways we talk about our experiences. So it's not just the words themselves, but the context, the intentions, the underlying assumptions. It's like the difference between reading a transcript of a conversation and actually hearing the tone of voice, the pauses, all that unspoken stuff.
Okay, I see. So it's about more than just the words themselves. It's like the whole package.
Exactly.
So discourse analysis helps us uncover those hidden meanings and maybe even like agendas,
Yeah, absolutely. It helps us recognize that language isn't neutral.
right?
It's often used to persuade, influence, to shape how we perceive things.
And even to, exert power, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Things are getting really interesting.
That's where it gets good.
One of your sources even talked about how certain groups, they maintain their power and control through language.
Yeah, that's a key insight from unit3.pdf. Think about how politicians use rhetoric to sway public opinion, or how those catchy advertising slogans they tap into, like our desires and insecurities.
It's like we're being bombarded with messages constantly.
We are.
And discourse analysis gives us the tools to decode them and understand what's really going on.
Exactly.
So how do you do discourse analysis? Is there like a specific method, like steps to follow?
Well, it's not quite as straightforward as some other research methods,
Right?
which can make it both really exciting and kind of challenging at the same time.
I bet.
Unit-3.pdf describes it more as a way of thinking, like a lens through which to view the world.
Okay, so it's about being aware of those like subtle nuances of language, like those hidden meanings and power dynamics we talked about.
Exactly. And there are some general steps.
Okay.
First, you've got to figure out what you want to focus on, like what specific discourse you're interested in. Political speeches, social media posts, news articles.
Got it. So you need a clear target.
Right. Then you need to gather your data. This could be collecting texts, recordings, or even observing conversations, like in their natural habitat.
So you're gathering the raw materials, the actual language you're going to be analyzing.
Yep. And then it's time to start analyzing, which involves identifying like key themes, patterns of language, even silences and things that are left out. Those can be really significant.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like putting together a puzzle,
Yeah.
looking for those connections and contradictions.
Exactly. And as you analyze, you're constantly interpreting and trying to make sense of what you're seeing and hearing. It's not just about describing what's there. You're trying to understand why it's there.
Okay, so like what social, cultural, or political forces might be shaping the conversation?
Right, you got it. It's about connecting those dots and seeing how language reflects and reinforces those bigger systems of power that are at play.
That's heavy stuff.
It is. And there's even a specific approach called critical discourse analysis, or CDA, which focuses on exposing and challenging social inequality.
Ooh, tell me more about that.
So unit3.pdf explains how CDA tries to uncover how language is often used to perpetuate those existing power structures. Think about how language can, like, marginalize certain groups, silence voices, or even make discrimination seem normal.
So it's like discourse analysis with a social justice mission.
Exactly. By exposing those power dynamics, CDA can raise awareness, challenge the way things are, and hopefully make society more equitable.
This is making me realize how powerful language can really be.
Yeah.
But how reliable is this? Can we trust the findings of something that seems, I don't know, kind of subjective?
That's a question that researchers have been grappling with for ages, and unit3.pdf acknowledges that reliability and validity can be a bit tricky with discourse analysis.
How so?
Well, unlike quantitative research, which really tries hard to be objective and replicable, discourse analysis embraces the subjective. It recognizes that the researcher's own perspective, their interpretation, plays a role in shaping the findings.
So it's not about eliminating bias. It's more about being aware of it and being transparent.
Exactly. And that can be a bit unsettling for some folks who are looking for like a very clear-cut answer, like the absolute truth. But the thing is, language is messy.
Right.
Meanings can be fluid, contested even.
So we've got to be okay with a little ambiguity.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that there are multiple ways to interpret language and that those interpretations can tell us a lot about the speaker, the audience, and what's going on in the world around them.
That's a really great point. It seems like discourse analysis is a really valuable tool for understanding all those little nuances in communication. Now, I'm curious about content analysis. How does that fit in with all of this?
So content analysis is a type of discourse analysis that zeroes in on systematically analyzing the content of communication. It's often used to find those patterns and themes and trends in large data sets like media coverage or social media posts or even historical documents.
So it's like taking a step back to look at the big picture instead of getting bogged down in individual conversations.
Exactly. And one of the key things about content analysis is its focus on trying to be objective.
Okay.
It recognizes that interpretation plays a part, but it really tries to reduce bias by using clear coding rules and systematic procedures.
Unit3.pdf had that interesting example about analyzing radio programs to see how often they mentioned anti-terrorism measures.
Right, that's a good one. It's something you can actually measure and track.
So you can see how the conversation around a specific issue changes over time.
Exactly. And that's one of the big advantages of content analysis. It lets you draw conclusions based on evidence, not just impressions.
It seems like a powerful tool for understanding how issues get talked about, how attitudes are changing, even how different groups are represented in the media.
Absolutely. It's about using data to tell a story, to find those trends that might not be so obvious at first glance.
And those insights can help shape policy decisions or marketing strategies, or even just raise awareness about social problems.
That's the power of it.
Content analysis is pretty versatile.
It is.
So whether you're a researcher, a journalist, someone in marketing, or just someone who's curious about how the world works, content analysis can be a valuable tool.
Yeah, it can be really useful.
So we've explored all this stuff about discourse analysis and content analysis, and I'm starting to see how they can help us understand all those hidden meanings and power dynamics in language. What happens next? Like, how do researchers actually share what they've learned?
That's a great question. After all that hard work, you've gathered and analyzed all this data, you've generated all these cool insights. You got to communicate those findings in a way that people understand and that they find valuable.
So it's not just about doing the research, it's about telling the story.
Right. Exactly. And unit-4.pdf really stresses that reporting in qualitative research is about more than just presenting a summary of the data.
Got to be compelling.
It does. And there are a few steps to make that happen. First, you have to be super clear about who your audience is. Who are you writing this for? What are they interested in? What kind of language will resonate with them?
So tailoring your message to your audience.
Right. Then you got to organize your findings in a way that's super clear, logical, and easy to follow. This might mean using headings, bullet points, visuals like charts or diagrams.
Make it visually appealing. I like it. What else?
You got to back up your claims with actual evidence from your data. This might mean using quotes from interviews, excerpts from your field notes, or snippets of text from the documents that you analyzed.
So like showing your work, how you got there.
Exactly. And last but not least, it's really important to be upfront about the limitations of your research.
Right.
No research is perfect. You've got to be honest about the scope of your findings, any potential bias.
So be transparent. Be upfront about the strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. And you know what? That honesty actually makes you more credible because it shows you're not exaggerating and that you're aware of the limitations.
It's about being a responsible researcher.
It is. And that responsibility also means you have to evaluate what you found. It's not enough to just present your conclusions.
Okay.
You have to think about what they mean.
Like, what are the implications?
Yeah, what do they mean for this area of research? Could they help shape practice or policy? Did your research bring up new questions?
So connecting your findings to the big picture.
Yes. And that's where the impact of qualitative research really is.
It's not just about gaining knowledge. It's about using it to make a difference.
Exactly.
That's what makes all this so rewarding. It's about deepening our understanding of human experience and using that understanding to create a better world.
100%.
We've covered so much in this deep dive.
We have.
From understanding like what qualitative research even is,
Yeah.
to exploring those different methods like ethnography and grounded theory.
Mm-hmm.
We even went on this like fascinating detour into the world of language
We did.
with discourse analysis and content analysis.
It's been quite the journey.
It really has.
I hope our listener is walking away with like a newfound appreciation for qualitative research.
Me too. It's a reminder that there's so much more to understanding like the human experience than just numbers and stats.
Oh.
Qualitative research really lets us get into those deeper layers of meaning,
Right.
those unique perspectives that make our understanding of ourselves and the world so much richer.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding. It's about using those insights to make a real difference.
Yeah,
Qualitative research can be a catalyst for like positive change,
totally.
whether it's shaping policy or marketing strategies, or even just inspiring personal growth.
I love that.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a final thought to kind of ponder.
Okay.
If you were to do a qualitative research study,
Yeah.
what would you want to explore?
What questions do you have about how people behave?
Yeah.
About culture, about society?
Oh, yeah.
What really fascinates you about the human experience? What mysteries do you want to like uncover?
Don't forget, qualitative research isn't just for like academics in their ivory tower.
Right.
It's a tool that anyone can use to get a deeper understanding of the world around them. Absolutely. So embrace that curiosity. Really hone your observation skills.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
The answers you find might surprise you.
They might.
And you never know, they might even lead you to make a positive impact on the world.
That's what it's all about. Happy researching, everyone.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Your support helps us keep creating valuable content like this. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Join our community for